¿Qué tal? Buenas tardes amigos de DB Noticias, los hago como todos los días desde la ciudad de Londres, ya en este viernes santo, este puente que pues prácticamente en México está por el punto de culminar, mientras que en México, pues en Reino Unido, perdón, estamos prácticamente apenas al comienzo de tal. Y bueno, el día de hoy les queremos traer como todos los viernes a nuestro invitado de lujo, al doctor Werner Voigt, el cual pues bueno, hoy nos trae un tema muy interesante. Hemos escuchado prácticamente las últimas semanas lo que está ocurriendo a favor de nuestro país. Pero bueno, hoy nos toca la entrevista con el doctor Werner Voigt sobre en inglés, así que vamos a cambiar en inglés. Therefore, today we would like to introduce, as every Friday, we would like to appreciate Dr. Werner Voigt for helping us and sharing basically with our forum, our followers, a topic that has been very on one of the main hot topics in our country is that Donald Trump recently has been putting basically the world in a more complicated situation than usual with these tariffs that he announces very frequently, a trade war as well with China, getting more difficult also in Europe. However, Mexico so far is dealing much better, and thanks to all of this, sounds like it so far is thanks to the administration of Mexico, led by Claudia Sheinbaum. Therefore, today, Dr. Werner will talk about a topic titled while the rest of the world is slipping into a more and more dangerous confrontation with Donald Trump, Mexico's president, Claudia Sheinbaum, is managing to establish a positive, productive relationship with him. What happened? Dr. Werner Voigt, good afternoon.
Very good afternoon. Well, and as you just said a minute ago, this is our positive message for the Easter holidays for a change. President Claudia Sheinbaum spoke to United States President Donald Trump by telephone on Wednesday of this week, a call both leaders described as very productive, without going into significant detail, however. The Mexican president said had a very productive call yesterday, and Sheinbaum subsequently acknowledged that her call with Trump in a post to the platform X, which before used to be known as Twitter. Well, the call came a day after a Fox News broadcast an interview during which Trump asserted that the Mexican government is very afraid of drug cartels and that those criminal groups run large sections of Mexico. Sheinbaum dismissed Trump's remarks at her Wednesday morning press conference and revealed that her government had sent a diplomatic note to the United States over its transfer of control of a section of land along the U.S.-Mexico border to the U.S. Army. Well, as Donald Trump mentioned on his account on the internet, the conversation was very productive. She said, "We will continue our dialogue to reach good agreements that benefit our country and our people," Mrs. Sheinbaum said. The Mexican president has consistently maintained that her government is willing to collaborate with the Trump administration on security issues, but will not accept subordination or any violation of Mexican sovereignty. Trade was another issue discussed by Sheinbaum and Trump in the call on Wednesday. As Mexico is currently attempting to negotiate better trading conditions with the United States. Since Trump began his second term in January, the United States has imposed tariffs on Mexican steel and aluminum, as well as cars made in Mexico, and goods that do not comply with the rules of the USMCA Free Trade Pact, known in Mexico as the TEMEC. In March, the United States briefly imposed 25% tariffs on all imports from Mexico and most imports from Canada, due to what the White House said was the two countries' failure to adequately stem the flow of lethal drugs such as fentanyl and the flow of illegal immigrants. On April the 3rd, Economy Minister Marcelo Ebrard of Mexico said that Mexico's goal was to achieve the best trading conditions among all countries of the world for the Mexican auto industry. The same thing for steel and aluminum. He said, Ebrard said, we're going to be working the next 40 days. That is what comes next. And we estimate that it will be around 40 days of negotiations. He said, Ebrard can now add tomatoes to the list of products for which he is attempting to achieve tariff relief, as the United States government announced on Monday of this week that it intends to impose duties of almost 21% on imports of most tomatoes from Mexico starting in July of this year. Well, Mrs. Sheinbaum and Donald Trump have had 5 calls in 5 months so far. Sheinbaum and Trump have now spoken by telephone on 5 occasions since Trump won the U.S. presidential election on November the 5th of last year. They have not yet met face-to-face, however. So then here's a summary of the 2 leaders' 4 previous calls, calls before the one positive call of this week. In a November 7th call, Sheinbaum said she and Trump discussed the good relationship there will be between Mexico and the United States. After a November 27th call, Sheinbaum rejected Trump's claim that she agreed in the call to effectively close the Mexico-U.S. border. Then in a February 3rd call, 2 weeks after Trump began his second term, the 2 leaders reached what Sheinbaum called a series of agreements, including one to postpone that 25% tariff that the U.S. was about to impose on all imports from Mexico. During the call, Sheinbaum said she committed to immediately deploy 10,000 National Guard troops to the northern border to avoid the trafficking of drugs from Mexico to the United States, in particular fentanyl. After a March 6th call, Trump said he had agreed that Mexico will not be required to pay tariffs on anything that falls under the USMCA TEMEC agreement. That certainly is spectacular. And he thus suspended tariffs on USMCA compliant goods that had taken effect 2 days earlier. So Mrs. Sheinbaum was able to basically neutralize all of the really alarmingly negative effects of what Trump had done 2 days earlier. That, from my perspective, is spectacular. Trump said after that telephone call, I did this suspension of all tariffs as an accommodation and out of respect for President Sheinbaum. Our relationship has been a very good one, and we are working hard together on the border, both in terms of stopping illegal aliens from entering the United States and likewise stopping fentanyl. This, the U.S. President wrote on the Truth Social platform that he owns. Now, Mexico's president, Claudia Sheinbaum, on yesterday, said the call with the United States President Donald Trump was very productive, and they will continue their dialogue to reach good agreements in the future. Claudia Sheinbaum's remark came just after President Trump said he had a very productive call with the President of Mexico. Said Trump had a very productive call with the President of Mexico yesterday. It was a very productive meeting. Meanwhile, referring to Trump's post, Claudia Sheinbaum said, as he mentioned on his account, it was very productive indeed. We will continue our dialogue to reach good agreements that benefit our countries and our people. Meanwhile, in another development, Mexico on Wednesday of this week sent a diplomatic note to the United States seeking security coordination in response to Washington's plan for its military to control land along the border, President Sheinbaum said on Wednesday. Here we're talking about active duty United States soldiers to be positioned on the U.S. side of the U.S.-Mexico border in the near future. Earlier this week, the U.S. Department of Commerce said on Monday that it would terminate a 2019 agreement that had failed to protect U.S. tomato growers from unfairly priced imports from Mexico. Washington said it would impose an anti-dumping order on July 14th of this year, resulting in duties of 20.9% on most tomato imports from Mexico. However, Mexico denied that its farmers were dumping tomatoes in the United States and said it would seek talks to avoid duties announced by Washington. There is no dumping by Mexican tomato producers, Claudia Sheinbaum told a news conference, expressing optimism that duties could certainly be avoided in the near future. Even if this sanction were to be applied, Mexican tomatoes would still be exported to the United States because there is no substitute. The main problem would be that tomatoes would be more expensive in the United States, Claudia Sheinbaum said in her daily news conference. So then, what is the background to all of this positive news? When Claudia Sheinbaum took office as Mexico's first female president last October, her historic rise drew international attention. A scientist by training and a reserved technocrat by reputation, Sheinbaum was seen as cautious in the arena of high-stakes diplomacy. She assumed office just 1 month before the U.S. presidential election, at the height of a turbulent campaign season when signs were starting to point toward Donald Trump defeating Kamala Harris. Amid swirling speculation, Sheinbaum remained very composed. She sidestepped reporters' headline-chasing questions, and when Trump ultimately won, she became one of the very first world leaders to offer him her congratulations. But doubts lingered, particularly over her ability to manage what is arguably one of the world's most complex bilateral relationships because of Donald Trump's mercurial temperament. But while many global leaders are still figuring out how to deal with a second Trump presidency, Claudia Sheinbaum is already executing a plan. And that plan is working. Now, last week, as Trump unveiled a new 10% global baseline tariff and harsher reciprocal tariffs on most trading partners, Mexico stood out as the notable exception, thanks to months of groundwork by Sheinbaum and her economic team. Mexico emerged with preferential treatment, confounding skeptics and earning grudging respect from the famously unpredictable U.S. president. There are no additional tariffs on Mexico, said Trump, and that is good for the country. Mrs. Sheinbaum said during a press conference on Thursday, attributing this exemption to the good relationship we have constructed with the U.S. government, based on collaboration but with respect. That relationship didn't materialize overnight. In the first 2 months of Trump's term, Mexico faced threats of auto and steel tariffs twice. Each time, the White House held back, partly due to continued negotiations led by Claudia Sheinbaum's team and her personal, measured diplomatic tone. The calm Sheinbaum projects is no accident. Behind the scenes, she has orchestrated a highly disciplined diplomatic strategy to keep Mexico out of Trump's crosshairs, a stark contrast to the more confrontational approaches taken by other U.S. trade partners and neighbors, like, for example, Canada. President Sheinbaum wisely set out some parameters to manage the always complex U.S.-Mexico relationship. She expressed willingness to cooperate with the U.S. on immigration and on fentanyl smuggling, while insisting at the same time that Mexico would not waver in defending its national sovereignty. Unlike Donald Trump, who is erratic and unpredictable, Claudia Sheinbaum is disciplined and totally focused. One of the more revealing moments came during a 45-minute phone call between Sheinbaum and Trump on February 3rd. Speaking in English, which was a surprise to Donald Trump, who was said to have found interpreter-assisted talks with her predecessor, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, to have been tedious and overly long. Sheinbaum proposed deploying 10,000 troops to the border to help curb fentanyl trafficking, and the proposal resonated immediately with Donald Trump, who paused planned tariff hikes and reportedly told her, "Oh, you are tough." Her balancing act is also paying off politically at home here in Mexico. Her strong posture has been a political boon, stirring nationalist sentiment. Her approval level is now higher than for any Mexican president in the last 30 years. Domestic polling shows her approval rating ranging between 63 and 85%, supported by a public perception that she is standing up to Trump without provoking him. At the high end, meaning at the 85% approval rating end, those numbers make Sheinbaum the most popular democratically elected leader in the world, surpassing Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's 75% approval. This certainly is remarkable. Trump is generally seen as an enemy of Mexico, and Sheinbaum has now positioned herself as a defender of national sovereignty without aggravating Donald Trump. Now, unlike in Canada, where Trump's tariffs deepened partisan divides, Sheinbaum's approach has unified much of Mexico's political class. Even opposition governors are now backing her. The narrative of standing up to Donald Trump resonates well all over Mexico. While China, Canada, and the European Union scrambled to devise retaliatory tariffs or denounce the new tariffs, Claudia Sheinbaum has stayed her course. We will announce a comprehensive program, not a tit-for-tat on tariffs, she told reporters on April the 2nd, the day before Trump's Liberation Day announcement that sent global markets into a tailspin. Her government followed with an 18-point economic plan focused on strengthening national production and boosting domestic content in key sectors such as automobiles, agriculture, and pharmaceuticals. She has indicated a very open and frank relationship with President Trump and his team, while presenting a clear interest in Mexico's interests. She seems to have a good sense of depth and range of these interests. Her Deputy Economy Secretary, Luis Rosendo Gutierrez, put it more explicitly. He said the instruction of President Claudia Sheinbaum was to work closely and cool-headed with the United States President, looking for fair and preferential treatment. And that she most definitely got done. However, I think we need to admit the risks of this fragile relationship breaking down are very real still. There is a long way to go in the Sheinbaum-Trump relationship. No matter what Sheinbaum does to accommodate Donald Trump, whether it is putting Mexican troops on the border or taking in deportees from the United States, it never seems to be enough for Donald Trump. Although Claudia Sheinbaum appears strong now, it's unclear whether her political support would hold if Mexico's economy were to suffer due to renewed U.S. tensions. That could include retaliatory tariffs or a breakdown in the joint migration enforcement. Now, for now, the Mexican peso has strengthened. It has strengthened for more than 1% in international trading on Thursday, yesterday, after U.S. President Donald Trump and Claudia Sheinbaum held a telephone call, as we just mentioned, which they both dubbed very productive indeed. So then, the peso was trading yesterday at 19.74 pesos per US dollar before midday yesterday, reaching its strongest point since mid-October. A truly gratifying result for all of us, and certainly good news. And with that, let me extend a very, very heartfelt wish for a happy Christmas 2025 to all of our listeners.
Yeah, I think this break that we're having this Easter is such a great news. Going and trying to rest for the next few days, knowing that the Mexican government has really performing pretty well with their relationship with Donald Trump. At least so far, the Mexican peso has got a little bit stronger compared to the US dollar, but also, as you have recognized, it is a very fragile relationship, not because of the profile from our current president in Mexico, but more about the US president, Donald Trump, who we know how difficult it is to deal with him, and every decision may change and can change every single day and week. So far, Mexico has been dealing very good, not only negotiating and trying to retaliate or even cancel a number of different tariffs, but also trying to get stronger as we get closer to the point of to renegotiate the TMEC. And key strategy here is not only the language skills that the president has, also the team that is surrounding her to reach eventually a good agreement on the benefit of both countries, and at the same moment trying to give Donald Trump what he really wants, a bit of more control in our country, including all the war against the narco traffic as well.
And now we can only hope that President Sheinbaum has the same degree of success in the renegotiation of the TMEC, the trade agreement between Mexico, Canada, and the United States, the same degree of success she is now apparently having in her telephone conversations with Donald Trump.
Absolutely, fully agree. It sounds like so far Mexico is going on the right path. So, however, these battles are not fully conquered. We have not fully conquered the relationship with them. Anything can happen. In the meantime, I think Mexico is taking the right direction, and we really cross our fingers that everything will just continue the same way and even better, as you have mentioned, in the future renegotiations of the trade agreement with the U.S. and Canada.
I agree 100%.
Dr. Werner Voigt, we would like to appreciate again so much every Friday for giving us such an interesting topic and recognizing what Claudia Sheinbaum has been doing pretty well the last 5 months, with at least it sounds like one phone call with Donald Trump once per month. It's a very, very recent and young relationship, but so far both of them are sitting down and explaining and also understanding to each other and finding the best decision for both sides as much as possible. Anyway, we'd like to wish you a great weekend. We are fully aware that the Eastern break has already begun there. Here it just began actually today. But we would like to wish you a great and amazing weekend, and we really hope to count with your comment next Friday.
Thank you. The same to you and your family.
Have a great weekend. Pues amigos, como escucharon el comentario del doctor Werner Voigt, pues muy interesante lo que ocurre con nuestra presidenta Claudia Sheinbaum, que al final del día pues sus relaciones han ido fortaleciendo nuestro país, beneficiando, retrasando algunas tarifas o los famosos problemas que está imponiendo Donald Trump en todo el mundo. Mientras tanto, no solamente las habilidades de negociación y el gran manejo del idioma inglés, la presidenta y su gran equipo, pues hasta el momento ha beneficiado a tal punto que el peso mexicano está tan fuerte como en octubre del año pasado, y pues esperemos, son relaciones realmente muy frágiles, muy delicadas, que en cualquier cuestión pueden romper por cualquier presión interna o entre las ambas partes que están siempre negociando. Mientras tanto, pues simplemente hay que cruzar los dedos, porque pues lo que comentamos no depende solamente de Claudia Sheinbaum, sino también de la volátil personalidad del presidente norteamericano, que en cualquier momento puede cambiar de su parecer, chiscar los dedos y cambiar de rumbo. Así que de esta forma llegamos al final de esta breve cápsula. Como siempre, les queremos agradecer. Antes de despedirnos, queremos invitar, como todos los días, a que le den like, compartan, dejen sus comentarios y entren a nuestro portal de noticias dbnoticias.com. De igual forma, escúchenos en Parmenas Radio, donde esta transmisión será compartida unos minutos más tarde. Como siempre, les queremos agradecer, que tengan un buen fin de semana y nos escuchamos el próximo lunes. Que tengan pues realmente una buena Semana Santa. Hasta la próxima.